Hello, I'm David-T-Rosen. In this video, I've outlined the steps to prevent society from falling into chaos, rioting, and murderous ways. Now, I've also included the methods our governments and businesses can use to implement them. Now, I believe these measures will allow us to save lives, get faster results, and to still have a functioning society when this pandemic is over. Now, for those measures to be successful, it requires the cooperation of everybody, and when we employ these strategies, everybody wins. There are essentially three areas of concern: society, which is us, business, and the governments. Now, amazingly, all these measures can be implemented and payments going out to those in need within 1 week. First, we must provide vital services to everybody. Now, the vital services are those that are essential to maintain a healthy society and the order of law, and they include items such as food, shelter, communications, internet, electricity, water, gas, etc. The companies that provide the vital services will provide, check this, one computer file to the governments or heads of state. That single file will contain the service offered, name, address, phone number of the customer, and the monthly amount of that particular service. The government then takes the file, the single file delivered, and uploads them into the accounts payable. They then pay each company a single check at a discounted amount at the end of each month. Landlords, both big and small, financial institutions such as mortgage companies, banks, leasing companies, credit card providers, etc., must immediately suspend all payment requirements until this pandemic is over. The government can provide a monthly check to those businesses as well to cover the cost of maintaining operations and to keep them in good standing. The landlord and financial institutions are simply suspending the payments, not waiving them, and the stakeholders can resume monthly payments once the pandemic is over. Now, I believe by doing so, vital services providers will continue to get paid. They continue to deliver services to the customers, and the businesses, well, they get to stay in business. And the customers are able to keep a roof over their heads, communicate with loved ones, and entertain themselves while we suffer through this lockdown. And the governments, well, the governments will still have a functioning society when the pandemic is over. Non-vital businesses such as manufacturers, retailers, malls, restaurants, widget makers, etc., well, they've been forced to lay off their staffs, putting hundreds of millions of people out of work without warning or compensation. That has left those hundreds of millions of people at risk of starvation and potentially suffer unrelated deaths. Now, I suggest all businesses, whether they have one employee or 100,000 employees, again, submit one file to the governments that contain the employee's name, address, ID number, and the amount they are paid each week. Each pay period, the government supplies a discounted amount to the employers, and the employer then sends the fund using their normal distribution channels to the employees. The payout would be, as I said, a discounted amount because the employee no longer has to travel or incur other related expenses. By doing so, this way everybody wins. The employer gets to pay the employees get paid, and the government knows where the money was spent. Here are the net gains. Businesses get targeted bailout monies, society gets to maintain a minimal way of life, and the governments get accountability to the taxpayers where the monies have gone. Now, there is also a major gain for businesses and governments because they are spared of the logistical nightmare of having to process hundreds of millions of individual applications. Now, other businesses that supply goods, such as grocery stores, clothing outlets, office supply companies, furniture stores, etc., well, they'll be able to continue to provide those goods through online purchases and use delivery services to provide the goods to the purchasers. Now, to make this work, I also believe that our frontline employees, such as emergency service workers, hospital workers, police, military, delivery people, skeletal workers, etc., must be paid a hazard pay and receive an increased wage because of the increased risks. Now, to recap, the vital service companies provide the government with a single file outlining the services, customer lists, and the cost to provide those services. The government then pays one discounted amount each month to each business to cover the hundreds of millions of customers. The businesses forced to lay off workers will provide to the government, again, one list of the employees and how much each receives. The government cuts one discounted check per week or month, depending on the pay period, to each of the businesses so that the hundreds of millions of employees continue to get paid. Now, here are the net results. The government is only dealing with tens of thousands of requests instead of the hundreds of millions of requests, eliminating the need for hundreds of millions of people to overwhelm governments and businesses with hundreds of millions of individual files that need to be correlated. Society immediately gets much needed money into the right hands, prevents chaos, and saves lives, and it also maintains infrastructures. I also believe that arbitrarily deciding how much an individual requires each month, whether it be $1,000 or $2,000, is a good thought. However, most cannot get by with the nominal amount being offered, and everybody has varying needs. Furthermore, after the pandemic is over, our governments can verify all the submissions, and businesses or individuals caught trying to game the system, well, they should be severely punished with fines and jail time. Now, we, as a society, must also do our part, and that means practicing safe distancing from everybody not living under the same roof, not taking any unnecessary travel, and when we must leave our home, we do so wearing a mask and gloves. We also need to consistently wash our hands thoroughly, and if we feel ill, we must stay away from everybody for a minimum of 15 days. I believe doing so will help lessen the spread of the virus, allow science time to come up with an effective vaccine, and us to resume a normal way of life sooner rather than later. Now, by following these strategies, everybody gets what they need to survive this pandemic. Society will remain with food, clothing, and shelter. Big business gets paid for their services, and the government gets to account for where the bailout money goes. Not following these strategies will lead to chaos, starvation, looting, rioting, mass murders, and a broken infrastructure when the pandemic is over. We will have nothing to go back to. I also believe that this time right now, will allow us to heal the many earthly ills, help us find ways to curb global warming as we get used to having less cars on the streets, less manufacturing, and we implement more AI strategies. Big businesses, well, they'll learn how to manage much of its workforce while they work from home, and we will eliminate unnecessary jobs. I also believe as much as 50% of the current workforce will not have a job to go back to because of AI and evolving technologies. That means we as a society will need to find other ways of earning an income. And there are many, such as finding a good home-based business, learning a trade, developing a passion that people will pay for, utilizing the affiliate programs that most businesses already offer, and learning how to become entrepreneurs. I believe we are entering a new age because the industrial age as we know it or knew it is dead. The new age, well, I call it the cooperative age, and it includes businesses like Uber, Airbnb, Wag, and eBay, just to name a few. These are income opportunities that most of us can earn from, and many, many, many more will be developed over the coming months and coming years. If we do this right, we will be a cleaner, more efficient, and happier society after this pandemic is over. That's what I believe. Once again, I'm David-T-Rosen. Let's cooperatively save the world because I believe happiness happens on purpose.